no matter how far into your career you are, or life, let's say, no matter how far you are into your life, there is a strong chance that you have felt the effects of a creative block. You may feel like what you're doing not only isn't good, but isn't even in the realm of good. I'm Samantha, and I'm a copywriter and creative producer, and I have been through my fair share of walls, ruts, blocks, ditches, standstills, stagnations. I've come back bloodied, weak, but determined to not ever let it happen again. And the problem with that is that it will happen again. And the only thing that you and I can both do is try to do things that will help us realize that it's not the end of the world, it is just a pause, and we need to reevaluate what our focus is so we can get back on track. If you've been there, you are among friends, and this video is for you. I want to share 5 ideas that I'm incorporating into my work and my life to hopefully make the next creative rut less of a black hole and more like a bummer party you're trying to find your way out of. What I like about these ideas is that you can start working on them immediately. They're not going to transform your life in the next second. There's not a light switch moment that's necessarily going to take you from being in a creative block to just pulling out all the stops with America's next great top novel. But there are things that will help you get your shit together so that the next time isn't too bad. So the first idea comes from James Clear. He's an expert on habits and decision making, and you may have seen his incredible book, Atomic Habits, which was transformative for my life in many, many ways. And so among the many nuggets of wisdom he offers, to prevent creative block, his suggestion is to create a consistent practice. By engaging in a steady rhythm of deliberate action, we set ourselves up to fight stagnation and foster a resilient creative flow. I love all those words. Rather than waiting for inspiration to strike, being in the habit of consistent practice encourages discipline and incremental growth. I like this idea because one of the main things that James Clear focuses on in his book Atomic Habits is the idea of just doing one thing, changing your habits, whatever, by 1%, doing one small thing, and those things add up over time. I love that because I think that even with these 5 ideas, it can feel sometimes like everything you're doing is overwhelming, right? Like that's what leads us to be, that's one of the many things that leads us to be in a creative rut in the first place. Another idea, and hopefully you've heard this one before, but if not, it's the idea of taking meaningful breaks. I think it's one of the most underrated techniques to better creative work, better productivity, better flow, of them all really, because it's the first thing that we push aside if we start to get busy or stressed or start to feel that kind of like tightening of pressure. Gloria has a new book out called Attention Span, and it is fantastic. She is an expert on distraction and multitasking, which are things I did not think you could be an expert on, but I digress. The ideas that she puts forward are just every one of them. By consciously stepping away from our work and engaging in probably anything else, but purposeful rest, purposeful leisure time, then we're able to replenish our mental resources and get that inspiration back, get that flow back, get that energy back that we need, that will help us see the screen and know exactly what to do with it. Another idea is from psychologist Adam Grant. I've read several of his books, including Originals and Think Again, and he emphasizes the significance of small, focused brainstorming sessions as an effective strategy to combat creative blocks. And I love and hate this idea. I love it because I think meaningful brainstorms are some of the best creative tools, especially if you're working with a group or a team, that you can possibly have. However, I think there are important parameters to brainstorms, and all the benefits of collaboration and different perspectives go right out the window if your group is too big, or they're not focused, or there isn't a goal in place. The next idea is from a book I have been reading called Flow, The Psychology of Optimal Experience by Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, and he suggests seeking out activities that offer a balance between ability and difficulty to potentially unlock a virtual reservoir of creative energy, putting you at an optimal flow state. I think you can take this advice in a couple of different ways. One, that you can go completely away from your work-life situation and out into the crazy world, seeking out activities like gardening, sports, community involvement. I think all of these are great ways to kind of completely detach from your work and get into a totally different headspace. Another way to think about it, if you can't necessarily leave your desk or you're trying for maybe a digital activity, is to seek out places that put your mind in a less pressurized state, but still have a connection to your work. For instance, sometimes after I've been briefed on a project, I might start by browsing Pinterest or similar platforms to see what comes up with various keywords mentioned in the brief or things that came up in a meeting. Sometimes that's not related to the brief at all. It's just kind of getting a grasp on what designs are trending this week. What are people doing? How are they communicating? Maybe that's different or nuanced or unique. Or even fun. Are there any pop culture references you could include? Are there any historical moments that might seem relevant? I am incredibly inspired by other people's work, and it gets me very motivated to cultivate my own ideas without the pressure of doing it right away. The last idea is kind of a fun one, and if you've been in a creative rut, you may have realized that part of what gets you into this creative rut is that you maybe take your work a little too seriously. In her book Big Magic, Elizabeth Gilbert suggests cultivating creativity and playfulness by approaching with lightness. For me, this idea is all about getting out of your mind box, trying new things, asking new questions, thinking about ideas from different perspectives. Ultimately, it's about thinking about ideas in a different way, not taking them too seriously, and approaching them with spontaneity and humor and more of a what if kind of mindset. I think that this one is especially challenging because it requires maybe a more positive mindset than those of us who are maybe in the throes of a creative block have the energy to exude or to get into. But I also think that's the key to unlocking a side of the human experience that we absolutely need when we're trying to design or write or create ideas that resonate with actual humans. I hope that these ideas have sparked some interest for you. Creative blocks are no joke, and the reasons we get in them are more often than not unrelated to our abilities. You know you have the skills, you may just not have the mental capacity or energy to utilize them. My hope in trying to incorporate these ideas into my own life is so that blocks on all fronts might take a cue from my work life and chill, settle into our experience, and just see where it flows. I'd love to know if you have tried any of these ideas, if they've worked, if they haven't, what you've changed, if you've tried anything I haven't mentioned here. I know there are countless ways to get into things, and I would love to share any ideas you may have as well. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.